5,500 years ago, the Sumerian people of Mesopotamia developed the first system of writing, now called cuneiform. A reed was used to inscribe soft, damp clay tablets with various types of symbols. These inscriptions communicated the language of the day. They are the earliest human voices we hear. They connect us to a time and people that we could otherwise only imagine. These clay tablets give us a clear picture of society and culture at the beginning of civilization, as well as the character of the people, their beliefs and values. And now, Grant Peeples with Clay Tablets.
Do, re, mi, fa, so, la, ti, do. Adam and Eve in paradise, they had everything so nice. Eve had a chat with a snake, and things have never been the same. Not me. The people say your modern woman, she gone astray, but I say the women of today, they're smarter than the men in every way. That's right, the women are smarter, that's right. The women are smarter, that's right. The women are smarter. The women are smarter, that's right. A little boy sits on the corner and cries. An old man stops and asks him why. Little boy say, girl, treat me bad. The old man, all him do is laugh. Not me. The people say, your modern woman, she gone astray. But I say the women of today, they're smarter than a man in every way. That's right, the women are smarter, that's right. The women are smarter, that's right. The women are smarter. The women are smarter, that's right. Donald Trump, he's a wicked man. He groped woman with a tiny hand. But Donald Trump will have hell to pay when Kamala Harris has her day. Not me. The people say your modern woman, she gone astray. But I say the women of today, they're smarter than a man in every way. That's right, the women, they're smarter, that's right. The women are smarter, that's right. The women are smarter. The women are smarter, that's right. Hey, that's right. The women, they're smarter, that's right. The women are smarter, that's right. The women are smarter. The women are smarter, that's right. I love that picture. I'm going to do a song that I wrote about my Aunt Lou. Some of you might have heard about her before. She was my grandmother Betty's sister. She had 9 brothers and sisters, and she is my first ancestor on both sides of my family to graduate from college, which she did in the early 1920s. And she was also my godmother, and she had no children of her own, and she took this role very seriously, and felt it was incumbent upon her to teach me some things. And it was my Aunt Lou who taught me how to she taught me how to fish, even before my grandfather did, off Hannon's Dock on St. Teresa Beach, where she also taught me how to swing a hammer in the pantry of my Aunt Euphasine's house. Taught me to use my elbow and not my wrist. It was my Aunt Lou who I first played horse with on my grandmother Betty's back patio. She taught me how to shoot a basketball, and she taught me how to crank a lawnmower. And she was I loved her so much. And then as I got older and could drive, I could go by her house and drink beer and smoke cigarettes. Aunt Lou had she had a secret. I guess that's what you would call it. I'm not sure if your definition of secret, if you live in the North, your definition of secret is probably a little different than if you're in the South. If you're, say, in Ohio, for you a secret is something that nobody really knows. In the South, it's different. A secret in the South can be that everybody knows it, really, but they just don't talk about it. So I'm going to sing you a song that I wrote about her, but before I do that, I'm actually going to read you a poem that I wrote, and it's called The Groove. Clara took a long, hard pull on her cigarette. As she exhaled, she said to him, "You might want to park that poetry shit for a bit, mister, and maybe try to get your happy back." She spoke with firm lesbian authority, the kind earned by a lifetime of not wearing makeup, of having never played with dolls. Aside from storytelling and distillery, she had no truck with artistry. She had never bought in to his rhymes. Instead, their friendship had been born at the corner of a bar where a mutual admiration for Jameson whiskey surfaced, that and Tom Brady, too, but also passionate, virulent anti-republicanism and a common vehement hatred of academia. He and his MFA, she and her GED. He sipped the Irish whiskey neat and said to her, "Maybe you're right." I once knew this great saxophone player. His name was Jimmy Graham. But the last time I saw Jimmy, he was playing bass. I asked him what was up with that, and he told me that the saxophone had become too dangerous, that it just carried him too far out there beyond the edge. But that the bass kept him closer to himself, that it kept him there in his groove. She laughed smoke, gripped the edge of the bar tightly with her hands. "You are one crazy son of a bitch," she said. "Yeah," he said, "and if only I had learned to play the bass." So here's Aunt Lou. My grandmother's sister, Auntie Lou, she wore man's socks and loafer shoes. She had button-down shirts and a short hairdo. And us kids, we never thought nothing of it. Nobody ever dared say that word whenever we talked about her. The truth, it wasn't nothing we ever even whispered. And so we just buried it with her. And Lou was born in 1906. She looked so pretty in the photographs, and her eyes were like little windows to the past. And only now can I see the sorrow, and nobody ever dared say that word whenever we talked about her. All the truth, it wasn't nothing we ever even whispered. And so we buried it with her. A martini in her left hand, a cigarette there in her right, and she's driving home alone on a Saturday night. And Lou could saw a board, she could drive a nail, she could run a chainsaw, make a football sail, and put a worm on a hook and cook a steak on a grill. And she could chop wood like a nobody ever dared say that word whenever we talked about her. All the truth, it wasn't nothing we ever even whispered. And so we just buried it with her. That's my Aunt Lou, graduate of Florida State College for Women. Thank all y'all for being here tonight. I know there's a convention or something going on. Maybe there's a conflict there. But I really appreciate you being here. This is going to be this is a night of recognition that this date just happens to be the date on which the ratification, the 100th anniversary ratification of the 19th Amendment falls. And it was a year ago that I began, in August of last year, that I began starting to just work on this idea about making a record of songs that had been written by women. And I believe it was actually learning about the 99th anniversary of the 19th Amendment that kind of got me going, or helped conceal that idea, bring that idea together. I started breaking up the songs, started crunching them. They were all songs that were written by friends of mine, women who were friends of mine. And as I did it, I began looking into the history of the women's movement. Now, I was a history major in college. I realized that there was so much I did not know about this movement. It is a very complex story and a very broad story. I can't really summarize it here. I thought about trying to do that, trying to tell the story of the 19th Amendment, but I decided instead that what I was going to do is I was just going to give you a few of my what I would call takeaways from the last year, really, of singing women's songs and doing my own private investigation about this. I want to start, actually, by reading the 19th Amendment. And it says, "The right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or any state on account of sex. Congress shall have power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation." And I think I could talk at length just about the language itself. I've spent a lot of time, looking up the words appropriate, looking up the abridged. But I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to kind of move on ahead. One thing, though, I was interested in was when it said that Congress shall have the power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. I thought it was very interesting that Congress did not have the duty to do that. It was just like it was an option. So with that said, here's my first takeaway. And this is probably the most important one, that when you hear that amendment, and I think this is a mistake that gets made when we talk about it, is that women were not given the right to vote by the 19th Amendment. In fact, it's implicit in the 19th Amendment that they already had that vote. It said women, when it says that the right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged because of sex, on account of sex. So to me, it's implicit that the right was already there, and it just took some time to make it happen. And of course, it wasn't there because, the right was there, but it had been subjugated. It had been subjugated by powerful men. That's why, that was what was going on with that. Number two, and that is that the ratification was not the end of something. Now, the whole process began in the 1840s with the suffrage movement, and as it got up around the Civil War, there was this inner relationship between suffrage movement and abolitionism. And so it took on some different characteristics then, and when it got into the Industrial Revolution, when women actually went out and started working and making a living, it took on a whole different tone. Because originally when it got started, it was not really the women's movement was not really about the right to vote. It was just about rights. They wanted to be able to own property. They wanted to be able to borrow money from a bank.
and women really saw that the difference between a slave and a wife, technically, it was a very fine line between the two. I can remember in the early 1970s here in Tallahassee, I can remember hearing a woman in particular by the name of Becky Poggi complaining that she was unable to take out a credit card until she got her husband's approval, and that was in the early 1970s. At any rate, so this whole process kind of continued up through World War I, and that had a huge effect on it then. And but that was just the beginning. That was just the beginning. It was kind of like a turn, an apex. And there was a big difference in having the right to vote and having rights. It was the difference between having a fish and having a fishing pole. It was the 19th Amendment, and this is in my view, what it did was it gave women the opportunity to be able to vote in elections and to be able to have political power so that they could get their rights. Number 3, and I think it's important to remember this, that this thing barely happened. The way it worked is that the states, there were 48 states at the time. The United States Senate and the United States House, the Congress, had to pass this amendment. It passed in the Senate by 1 vote, and it passed in the House by 2 votes. And at that point, it went to the states, and 35 of the 48 states had to ratify it. And, of course, it was very much similar than it is now. There were swing states. There were states like Florida and Georgia and Alabama that weren't going to approve the Equal Rights Amendment, no matter, not the Equal Rights Amendment, the 19th Amendment, no matter what. And but there were some swing states, and one of them was Tennessee. And when the whole thing boiled down, all the western states had approved it, New York had approved it, and of course there were states in the South, that what are red states now, who had just said, no way we're going to do it. And it got to Tennessee, and that was the last chance for this thing to make it, for the 19th Amendment to get passed. And it passed there by 1 vote in the state legislature. And so the takeaway is just how close all of this is. Not just in the women's movement, but in any kind of movement where people are trying to get right. It comes right down to the wire. The 4th thing is that even though it passed and became law, that there were a lot of women who were still disenfranchised. Black women, of course, in particular in the South. This amendment had no effect on them, virtually none at all, on their ability to vote. And the same went for Native Americans and a number of immigrant populations who were citizens, but still were not able to vote. And 5, this is it, is what I learned from studying this, is that all of these movements, the women's movement, Black Lives Matter movement, gay and lesbian, transgender unions, people who are out there trying to defend our planet and the oceans, rivers, environment, even people who might be concerned with animal rights. All of these people, all of these movements are essentially fighting the same battle. And that is, they are fighting a battle against entrenched political and legal power and economic power. And it's power that's held by and large by straight white men with money. And they don't want to give it up. And this battle has been going on since our Constitution got framed in 1786. If you go back and study that, there was always a fight over this same thing. It's never changed, and it's not going to change. And this is one of the takeaways I got. We're in this for the long haul. And the battle is now even more sinister than it ever was, because there's an element now, of a call for a state religion. And that we have a president who will gas peaceful protesters out in our nation's capital so that he can have a photo op in front of a church he doesn't attend, holding up a religious text that he's never read. And 6, and the last takeaway, is that we live, and this is the one that is really kind of came to me today as I was finalizing my notes. And this is a strange one to say. But my takeaway from my study of the 19th Amendment is that we are, in fact, the greatest country in the world. And that we are the greatest country in the world not because of who we are or what we have. We're the greatest country in the world because of what we're able to be, what we're capable of being. And you can go back and we can make statements about how, oh, yeah, the people who framed the Constitution, our founding fathers were slave owners. They were misogynist. Many of them wanted poll taxes. They stole a land from Native Americans, and all of this is true. And yet they were able to envision a country and create the documents and create a legal system by which all of that can be changed and all of that can be righted if we just have the will to do it. And so that's it. Those are my takeaways. And so that's about the 19th Amendment. And we've talked about kind of like 1920 a lot. But now we're going to show a little video of 2020. And this is on the streets of Seattle, Washington last month. That's what this is about. All right. No commentary on that. I just want to, how about, I think it's time to get Donna on the phone. Pete, have you got Donna out there? Is she on the line somewhere?
I'm on the line.
Hey, Donna, how are you?
I'm doing well.
So tell me, Thomasville, I went out and I voted today. Did y'all vote in Georgia today?
No, we had our primary about a month ago.
You had your primary. Today we had local elections in Florida. And,
that's what I mean, yes.
Yeah, so you had that as well. Well, today we had local elections here in Florida, and there were 10 races. And I would just like to say there were 10 races, and out of those 10 races, there were 7 women that I voted for. And so I'm really proud of that. Not proud that I did it. I'm proud that they were there. And yeah. So I got a question for you. You have 2 daughters and a granddaughter.
Yes, I do.
And you also have a son.
Yes.
Is it different? I mean, like is it different raising? Like when you had your girls, did you have this raising your girls? Did you have this idea that it was going to be tougher for them?
Yes, I did.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like they were going to have a strong character. Mm-hmm. I wanted them to have a strong character.
Right.
So they could succeed in whatever they wanted without having to be left behind because of their gender.
Right. And it's funny you say strong character because that's, today it sounds like strong character. That's one of the things that women can get accused of. It's
that's
almost
a nasty one.
Yeah, you can be a nasty. Well, you also have a granddaughter. And
I do.
And as you and I know you spend a lot of time with her. Do you think it's different with her? Has anything changed now? Like raising a granddaughter, I mean, does it or does it seem better or does it seem worse?
Well, I think in a lot of ways it's worse. I don't know that that's gender-based, but just the climate we're living in today, the political climate that we're in. I mean the kind of politics that you can't ignore, of going out every day, whether you have health care or not, whether you're going to be told to go to a school when it's not safe because of the pandemic, those kinds of things.
Right.
So I think it's harder in many ways today because of those kinds of things.
Yeah. All right. Well, by the way, Donna Mavety is she's my right-hand person. Pete, do you have a picture of that little girl by any chance? Look at that, right? Oh, who is that? I don't know if you can see that. That's Donna's granddaughter at the piano. She's at the piano. She's got hymns and a listen to women play. Well, I just wanted to let everybody know that Donna is my publicist, and she's worked for me since the very beginning, since 2008 when I got started in this. And I know some of you have kind of wondered who that woman is on the other end. And she's worked for me for a while. And she's also worked for Garth Morlix and Sam Baker and Melanie and the Hill Benders and Jack Williams and Ray Bonneville and a lot of other people. But now she's gone back to her day job. She's doing some librarying now during the pandemic. All right, Donna, we'll get back to you a little bit later. We're going to move ahead here. We're going to play. We got Eliza Gilkyson coming up here in a little while. We're going to start out before I make the phone call to her, showing a video from her brand new record, which was released in April, and the name of the record is 2020, and this is a song from that record. All right, we're giving Eliza a call. Let's see if she answers. Too ringy-dingy? 3 ringy-dingy. Oh, come on, Eliza. 4 ringy-dingy.
Hello.
Hey,
Hello.
is Eliza in?
Who's calling, please?
This is Grant Peeples.
Okay, 1 minute. Hi. I thought it was a telemarketer. That's why I was being weird. Eliza's right here. Hold on. Hey.
I am a telemarketer. Hey.
Yeah, I am a soldier in the army of the Lord.
Have you been watching Have you been watching the show? Have you been able to watch?
No, I'm completely off schedule here.
No problem. We just played "Peace in Our Hearts." We just played that for the.
Okay, I'm going to tune in right now. I set my alarm; it did not go off.
Yeah,
so
you don't even need to tune in for this phone call. We can just do this, and you can tune in later. I just had a few questions I wanted to run by you if I can. And
But let me just sign on to everything. Okay, that would be nice for me to do that.
All right. We'll.
So, what I wrote down here was, and maybe I'm off. You gave me a link at 8:30, right? At 8:30 your time is 6:30 my time.
See, I thought you were in Austin, so that's why we got
I'm
this.
not. That's why.
Yeah, you're in New Mexico.
But
Yeah.
hang on. I'm going to go there now. See, I thought you were in Austin. Okay, all right. So now you want me to...
Okay, I want you to turn that down.
Yeah, I will. Hang on.
This
Okay,
is
all right, that's off.
all right.
Now I'm just in the headphones.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you a couple of questions, and the first one I wanted to ask was, where the name 2020? How did that come about? You released the record on April 10th.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, you released the record on April 10th. I want to know why 2020? Why that name? Hello? Hello?
I love the play on words, 2020 vision.
Right.
Yeah.
But was it a post-COVID name, or did you name that before the whole COVID thing
Here's
took
the
place?
delay. Hey, Grant.
Yeah.
Hey, Grant.
Yes.
Hang on a second. There's such a delay. Hang on a second. I want to take it out of the headphones. And you and I are just going to talk on the phone.
Yeah, that's all this
There.
is. It's just a phone call.
Okay, so I'm confused because when I'm looking at you, you're in a...
Yeah, you
you're
should
like-
not be looking at me.
Okay.
Yeah. We're just having a phone call here. This is not a video production.
Okay,
All
I'm
right.
gonna I'm gonna
good.
make that go away.
Okay, good.
All right, and then I'm gonna turn my volume down on the. There we go. Okay, now I'm ready.
All right.
So you asked me about 2020.
Yeah, I just wanted
Yeah.
to. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I just wanted to know was that a pre-COVID or a post-COVID name?
That was a pre-COVID thing. I thought about it last summer when I decided I was going to do the record. I just went, oh, okay, 2020. It's this year. It was
Right.
about this year. I feel like this year is the most important year of my life and many of our lives. So much depends on this election, and I wanted to write a bunch of music that would address the election, that would be sort of anthems for this year.
Right.
Songs to sing along to, songs to march to. I certainly assumed I was going to be touring. I had, months and months of touring ahead of me, and I was just really looking forward to getting out there and singing these songs with people. But then there was a 2020 vision. I like that. And then the hindsight is 2020. There was just a lot about the name that seemed to work for me.
Right, and it ended up being more auspicious than you could have ever dreamed, I guess. So let me ask you this, and I saw it on Facebook. I guess it's okay to say you just turned 70. I think it was yesterday.
No, I'm announcing my 70th birthday, which is coming up in a week.
No, we just announced it here, so that's okay. I want to know. This is something. I mean, that's a big number, and I was interested if there's something that you have learned in the last 5 years or so about the music business, about life, or something that you wish you had known when you were 30 years old. Something that might have put you on a different track, that might have sent you going in a different direction.
Well, there were many crossroads where I took left turns, and later on I thought, boy, if I had turned right, then I might have had a major record deal. Or very often I chose a sort of a non-commercial route when I was given the opportunity to grow my career. And I just didn't care. And then later on, it's like, oh my God, how am I going to make a living? I need to do the thing that everybody's doing. And then, so I really have been pursuing who I am, and also in the context of the industry. I've been doing that for 50 years now. Right. So I really have. I've kissed a lot of frogs. I've chased a lot of dreams. I've cried a billion tears of disillusionment and sorrow and grief. I've quit and recommitted. I've felt almost suicidal at times because I couldn't make my dreams come true, right. with my career. And what's interesting is you get to be 70, right. and you think, God, I'm so glad I had the life that I had. Mm-hmm. I'm just kissed the earth that I had the life that I had, because all the things I learned. I'm not sure that I would have been a person who could have handled adoration and fame. I think it might have stopped me from growing, and it might have kept me not humble enough, and I may not have learned the larger lessons about what it means to be an authentic human being. Right. I may not have met my beautiful husband. I might not have had my incredible children and grandchildren. My life is so beautiful, and I'm so grateful for everything I've had, but it has been a very hard place to get to.
Right. Well, you kind of, it's interesting. My next question kind of follows this: is you have mentored a lot of women. I know, firsthand from hearing Betty Sue and Jamie Harris and Carrie Elkin talk about you that, that women artists, and I apologize for using the term role model, but you are that, and you've been involved in an organization. I think it's called the Austin Women Choir, spelled WEMIN.
It's called Women Elevating Women in Music, WEWIM.
Right, WEWIM.
And that was started by me and Charlie Fay. We were just hanging out, and actually, the story behind it is interesting, because I was reaching this point in my early 60s where I started to. The young women were coming up, and I really in my 50s I began to realize that aging. I mean, there's so much ageism for women. It's right. Insane. Women are really not allowed to grow old in public. We are. I think honestly it grosses people out to see old women. I think it's a turnoff. It pushes some horrible primal reject thing.
But can I interrupt here though? I think it's very interesting that you say that, because when we were getting started here, these pictures that I'm showing of you right now that you cannot see are recent pictures, and I had just gone to your press page and I pulled up 2 photographs. They looked like you, and it looked like the Eliza Gilkyson I know. And when you saw them, you go, no, I don't want you to use those. Those are 15 years old. You wanted me to use photographs of you as a 70-year-old woman, not as a 55-year-old woman.
Well, that's what I'm getting to is this whole idea of authenticity, which I think trumps everything. And right. So if you really go for who to really unearth who it is you really are, then you can enter into a kind of a timeless, ageless place. And so, but it has really taken me a lot of work to get there. And what I was saying about the WEWIM thing, I was starting to feel really jealous of these younger women. Betty Sue Carrie Elkin, all of them. I saw them coming up, and I was jealous of them, and I was covetous of my little piece of the rock. And I had a epiphany where I realized that is so wrong. That's so unhealthy for me to feel that way. And what can I do to change my head around this? And the answer was, get to know these women and do something for them. They've got to be struggling. It's got to be hard for them. Be helpful, and be loving and kind, and see what you can do to help them. And it was like this mission that I went on, and it just changed everything.
Let me ask you this. Let's just say you're at Folk Alliance, or you're somewhere. You're at a hotel somewhere, and you get on an elevator, and it's you and a young woman with a guitar gets on there, and y'all are going up to the 30th floor, and she asks you, what's the most important thing I need to know or do with my career? And she asks you that, and I'm interested in what you would tell her, not that would be different than what you would tell a young man. If you had that elevator pitch, you had just that amount of time to say, just that one breather, what would it be?
Again, it would be true to your authentic self. Do the work to understand who you really are, and that's what work you do on yourself.
Right.
And then, in terms of being an artist, it's a lot about writing really good songs. Don't stop short of greatness when it comes to writing songs. Don't consider a song done until every single word and melody and everything is in place, and it's very satisfying. Because I think what happens is everybody's all into their gear, and into their marketing plans. And I've said this many times to the younger women, you're spending too much time on your gear and your marketing plan. You're really good at it, but who are you musically? If you spend all the time that you spend on your marketing plan on really honing your craft, that might move you further than your marketing plan will.
Well, yeah, and also I think what's very interesting is what your first word is you need to work on yourself, and I think that the idea is that artistry begins with the self even more than it does begin with the craft and working on yourself. I have one more question, and then I want to go and I really appreciate you, and I'm sorry about me screwing up on the phone call. I probably interrupted your dinner.
That's great. I'm very happy to talk to you.
There's a famous Utah Phillips quote. I say it's famous. I have it written in my house, and I probably have it written down wrong, but it says, "You can't make a career move in folk music." And I was just wanting to know, like now, would you just share with me, what is your strategizing now as far as your career in light of this incredible birthday that's coming up, but more so in light of what looks to be out there and what not to be? What are you doing booking wise? What are you doing about reassessing and rethinking about how to proceed? Getting out into the public, it be through songs or shows.
Oh, my God, it's really hard because if you're going to do live stream and then you go, oh, hey, all these venues are doing live stream, but then you're just live streaming to the same people.
Right.
It's not like touring at all.
Right.
And I think everybody's seeing this. As they do live stream, the more they do, the more diminishing returns there are with
Right.
it. You can't, unless you have a base of 20,000 people, if you're starting out, you're basically just performing to your same group again. And
Right.
how to get out of that, I really don't know. I've been working on videos. I think videos are a good idea. I think that's one thing you can do that really gets spread around, especially if you make a really good video.
Right.
I think it's a lot of people are doing. And then there are new venues. I'm going to do a drive-in movie theater next month with Ray Wiley Hubbard, and we'll just do it in the round. And people literally drive to the drive-in, and
That will be your first live performance.
That is going to be my first live performance,
Right.
and it's total social distancing on the stage. everything is wiped down. I mean, it's
Will it
my
be?
first time.
Will it be
out.
broadcast too? Will we be able? Will it also be a broadcast thing that we'll be able to see?
I don't think so. I think the venue is really trying to keep it specific, and I really understand that, because otherwise it just doesn't. Stuff gets too diluted, and so you have to make things special. And since he's asking them to physically show up, I think he'll probably keep it that way.
All right. Well.
But then we're all doing the live stream stuff. But I find that it's best to do your own live stream show and build on that. But I'm going to start doing, if somebody asks you to play on their benefit or whatever, I do it because it just gets me to new people. So there's a lot of free stuff being asked of us. Hey, will you play on this for that? And you go, I'm sick of doing free stuff. I really need to make some money. But you got to do it, because really you've got to keep growing your fan base.
Well,
because then you can sell records to them.
Well, I'm sorry about the confluence of COVID and your new record. I had kind of the same thing happen to me with this record.
Did you?
Yeah.
When did yours come out?
It came out on Valentine's Day. So, but.
Oh my God! Did you do any touring before everything shut down?
I did 2 weeks. I quit March 3rd was my last.
Did you get stuck out on the road when everything stopped?
No, I did not. But I kind of ran.
You made it home.
I ran home. So, well, look, we're going to go, but I can't tell you how much I appreciate. And once again, I apologize. I've learned something here. We're going to have to make calls to the people we're talking to before, just in case this kind of thing happens. And this is live television that we're doing, and so. But I really appreciate you taking the call. I wish you the best of luck with the record. And
thanks, Grant.
And just,
no, I really think I screwed up somehow with the time zone thing.
No.
So my bad. Please don't apologize to me. And if it's a pleasure to talk to you anytime.
All right. Thank you, Eliza. We'll talk to you soon.
Take care, Grant.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. Hey, Pete, will you play that Eliza Gilkyson song that I recorded? It's called Unsustainable. This is on my new record that's called Bad Wife. I recorded this with Garth Morlix in Austin, Texas at the Root Ball Studio. Unsustainable, unmaintainable. We've gone too far and now it's uncontainable. Let's tear it down and start all over again. Reprehensible, indefensible. The way we are is truly incomprehensible. Back to the drawing board and start all over again. Madly, we love you madly. We would have gladly maintained the status quo. Badly, we behave badly. Now sadly, we'll have to let you go. You're so unforgivable, results untenable. To make this perfect garden so unlivable. Back to the drawing board and start all over again. Madly, we loved you madly. We would have gladly maintained the status quo. Badly, we behave badly. Now sadly, we'll have to let you go. You're so unsustainable, unrestrainable. Our rationale is simply unexplainable.
Let's tear it down and start all over. Back to the drawing board and start all over. Let's tear it down and start all over again.
Yeah, that's Unsustainable, written by Eliza Gilkyson. And that was Gurf Morlick's singing with me. When we made this record, Bad Wife, it's the first record I've ever made that had no women playing on it. There weren't any women singing. There weren't any women. I've had women producers. So that was Gurf doing that beautiful harmony there with me. As y'all might know, if you've been watching these, we've shown a lot of art here. I've just got one painting that we're going to put up that I collected from this interim in the last month, and I want to show it to you. And it's by an artist named Zilly, is the best I can tell her name on that signature. Thank you, Pete. So I'm going to read a poem here. But before, Pete, if you can, I would like to show a picture to you of what this poem was written on. This is the first poem that we have in recorded history. This predates anything from the Old Testament by about 2,500 years. It predates Homer's Odyssey. And it is a poem written by a woman. And the first poem that we have in history was written by a woman. And her name was Idndwana. And she was in Sumer, and she was the daughter of this king by the name of Sargon. And they had this empire there, and Sargon had taken over, and it was an empire that they had a problem about consolidating power and operating. The problem was that there was religious diversity there, and Sargon realized that he wouldn't be able to control everybody if they had all of these religions. He needed one religion, a state religion, and so his daughter wrote a poem. He began to develop his own pantheon and eliminate gods that he didn't think were worthy of his empire. And he got his daughter to write this poem that I'm getting ready to read for you. And it's a poem that she wrote to a goddess by the name of Inanna. And I'm going to read it. Here we go. It says, "Thirst curs, lady supreme over the foreign lands, you can take anything from your providence. Who can take anything from your province? Once you have extended your province, if you frown at the mountains, vegetation there is ruined. Their great gateways are set afire. Blood is poured into their rivers because of you, and their people must drink it. They must lead their troops captive before you all together. They must scatter their elite regiments for you all together. They must stand able-bodied young men at your service all together. Tempests have filled the dancing places of their cities. They drive their young men before you as prisoners. Your holy command has been spoken over the city which has not declared, 'The foreign lands are yours.' Wherever they have not declared, it is your own fathers, and it is brought back under your feet. Responsible care is removed from its sheepfolds. A woman no longer speaks affectionately with her husband. At dead of night, she no longer takes counsel with him, and she no longer reveals to him the pure thoughts of her heart. And she no longer reveals to him the pure thoughts of her heart. Impetuous wild cow, great daughter of Suan, who can take anything from your province?" And there she is, a statue of the woman who wrote the first poem that we have, which was a poem about a state religion, praising the gods of the state. Which is something that we're going to juxtapose here now to a text I got from an old friend of mine. When I say old, I'm talking about 55 years. And I accept responsibility for kind of getting this thing going. I had forwarded him a a story from the New York Times called "Christianity Will Have Power." And this is what he wrote back to me. Grant, I can't say that he's talking about the president, is perfect. Far from it. I do wish he would keep his arrogant mouth shut and stay off the Twitter account. Yes, by all means. That being said, he truly is respectful of the Christian faith and its tenets, whether for political purposes or he really feels that there is an attack on the Christian faith. My faith is in Christ, my Redeemer, not Donald Trump, but God has used some odd people historically to get things done. I just can't stand with the out-of-control progressive left, and I mean way out of control, with no blinders on. No blinders on. When we defund the police and say it's okay to have open borders, that you and my taxpayer money will pay for free, etc., you name it, to the immigrants, taking away gun rights, freedom of speech, etc. In 20 years will be another Venezuela. America is the greatest country on earth and has been protected and flourished with God's umbrella over us. We might head into the direction you aspire us to go, and then we'll be nothing more than a comma in the history of man. Man isn't mentioned in the Bible. America isn't mentioned in the Bible. And that may be the reason we ended up being a comma in the history of the world. I love you and always will. Let's disagree. Let's agree to disagree. So that is from my old friend. And I juxtapose that to the poem from the oldest poem we have in history, a poem that is 5,500 years old. And I think I'm just going to read this. This is kind of a summation and a reply to my friend. I'm sure I don't need to draw the blatant parallels here between my friend's text to me and the text discovered on the clay tablet that was Edinwana's poem to the goddess Inanna. There is almost 5,000 years between the two missives, but the essence of each is an unmitigated cry for a theocratic state. The primary difference between the two is that what the priestess Edinwana wrote was a creative act, original, and the text my friend sent is something that's been copied and pasted 1,000,000 times by Christian nationalists and sent to people like me. It is revealing and telling about who you are as a human being, my old friend, telling beyond your spiritual ability to even grasp, I'm afraid, that your only rebuke of Donald Trump, the only thing you stated you had a problem with, was that you wished he would not open his arrogant mouth or tweet his vileness because, well, let's face it, it is uncomfortably embarrassing and inconvenient to you and your cause. But you citing this is the concern you have about him, and not say the 19 women who say he sexually assaulted them, or that he paid off a porn star he had sex with while his wife was pregnant, or that he sold off vast portions of our national parks and overturned hundreds of regulations that protected our drinking water, the air we breathe, and what is left of our wilderness. Or that he made fun of a crippled person, or disparaged the true American hero, John McCain, or that he has never once rebuked Vladimir Putin or the Russians for anything, but instead has knifed the leadership of staid, proven allies like Canada and Germany. Or that his Trump University was shut down. It was called a scam by the conservative magazine, the National Review. Or that he ordered separating children from their families and putting them in chain-link confinements. Or that he is the only person in history who's ever claimed to be a Christian who doesn't know that 2 Corinthians has never been called 2 Corinthians by anybody other than him ever. Or that he has shamelessly tried to bring the United States Postal Service to its knees so that he can discredit and disrupt our electoral process. Or that his not-for-profit so-called charity was shut down with impunity for fleecing people out of their money. Or that he fired the entire pandemic response team put in place by President Obama, then misled, mismanaged, and lied to the American people about COVID-19. Or that he has never once displayed a smidgen of humility or grace or empathy in his character, ever. Nor has he apologized for anything ever, including spewing lies about Obama's birth certificate or taking out ads in the New York Times calling for the execution of 5 young black men who were later proved innocent of the crime they were accused of, or that his candidacy is overwhelmingly supported by the likes of the KKK, fascists, and militant public gun-wielding white supremacy groups, or that he feels himself, quote, a star, and is therefore entitled to grab women by the pussy. I could go on and on with the dirty laundry list of the abhorrent, vile, creepy, and scandal-ridden life of this despicable human being. The only footnote I would like to toss in is a quote from my father who said, "Donald Trump is the only guy I ever heard of who went broke owning a damn casino." But no facts and weights of evidence are ever going to change you, your heart, or these things you call your quote-unquote beliefs. No, you are a true believer. And like all true believers, you are programmed with passion rather than critical thinking, and therefore you can't help but automatically reject out of hand anything that appears to undermine those beliefs. And all that aside, I want to be really clear here about something, old friend. No, I will not agree to disagree with Christian fundamentalism using a malignant, narcissist, lying sociopath to usher in their autocratic theocracy. Christian nationalism is anathema to our Constitution, to the bullet that still resides in my father's body from when he fought for American idealism. It is an enemy of democracy and an enemy of free minds. It is an enemy of this fragile experiment of a nation that Abraham Lincoln called the last best hope for humanity. And I am spiritually at war with that, and therefore you as well. And so, no, I will not agree to disagree. This is a poem I'm going to read you, a little, a lighter note from a great Canadian poet by the name of Robert Priest, who I had the privilege of meeting here in Tallahassee a couple of years ago. He is a poet and a songwriter. In another era, he would have been referred to as a wit by more people than just me, but he is a wit. And this is a poem that he wrote. It's called Scenes from Ancient Sumer. Cuneiform. What birds before they flew away left these wedge-shaped tracks in clay? These tracks were left, but not by birds. Yes, these things flew, but they were words. She held the latest tablet in her palm, a perfect fit. She'd learned to use this system. She was very good at it. She held the angle stylus, and then what she did next was leave us all a message. She entered text. She loved this new technology, just soft, wet clay and signs, but it could store stories far across time. 4,000 years after, her city burned down, but they found the ancient tablet still working underground. The fire that had burned the library hadn't burned her words away. In fact, the flames had hardened them and baked them in the clay. Yes, Idundwana's cuneiforms, still readable in stone. Her tablet fits in the palm, just like a mobile phone. That's how far we've come, people. Great poem by you, Robert. I'm gonna sing a few songs here that I wrote for women. And this is a song, it's a brand new song I wrote for my great niece. And her name is Sadie. Dear Sadie, I'm gonna tell you about our family, Tallahassee in Mississippi. Well, that's the dirt that you come from. Your ancestors, well, they were hardy.
Rugged and strong-willed, they stole a continent from another people, and some are plundering it still. Dear Sadie, I hate to be the one to tell you that there are traitors in your bloodlines who took up arms against our nation, and they attacked our Constitution and had their asses handed to them. Dear Sadie, this is the past we can't forget. Aside from bird shit on some monument, being white, it's still fraught with privilege. I hope your eyes, they're never blinded to this truth. I hope your heart is put to its fullest use, and that you grow up to love others as one would love one's only brother. Dear Sadie, there's just two kinds of people in this world, little girl. Yes, and both of them are in you. Yes, both are there inside you. And you become which of the two you choose to be you. And this is part of what I'd hoped I'd have the chance to teach you. That and how to sharpen up a word, sing a ringing Dylan verse, read some Mary Oliver, and play an E chord on guitar. Yes, I'd hoped to try, but I'm afraid we missed that ride. Dear Sadie, I know chances are you'll never know me, but when you grow up, ask your daddy. You can ask him what I stood for, and let him tell you what I stood for. Dear Sadie. My great niece. I am to her what my Aunt Lou, I could be to her what my Aunt Lou was to me. Here's a poem I've written since the last time I saw y'all. It's called The Brood Mares of Maga. The corn-fattened heifers in the cult of the barnyard are the animal farm's emblems of an inferior sex. These silage-munching handmaidens to the vetted bulls are empowered by the consolation that they can feel superior to the lowly swine and grass-fed bovines hunkered down in the lower pastures. These are ideological breeding stock, the brood mares of Maga, with philosophical feed buckets tied to their muzzles, flies flecked about their calf-stretched vulvas, and their eyes glassed over in the dim light of a bloody, waning moon. They have answered the call to surrender their inner ambitions to the man-demands of rote submission, whereby the barn door has been slammed with biblical verses and all that rapey, gropey, creepy stuff somehow now easily passes muster. So I sang you a song about my Aunt Lou, sang you a song about my great aunt, sing you a song now about, I sang you a song about my great niece. I'm going to sing you a song now about my dear good friend, Elizabeth Williamson. I wrote for her.
She produced 3 of my records. We went to high school together. She's kind of a soulmate. Well, life on life's terms, it ain't no hell of a deal. And even with both hands on the wheel, well, it's a mighty rugged road we ride. And we might reinvent ourselves, but we don't really become someone else. And now I'm here to tell you, tomorrow is no place to hide. Ah, Elizabeth, well, is it just coffee talking as I struggle through the fog of yet another brutal morning? I am wishing I was there with you in your sacred garden, sipping from that cup of wisdom that we have come to share. And anything we choose to sing can and will be used against us. It's a heartbreaking business. Keep both hands on the plow, 'cause there won't be no turning back, no shaving corners off our troubles, and no lights in any tunnels, and not a chance of digging out. Ah, Elizabeth, well, is it just coffee talking as I struggle through the fog of yet another brutal morning? I am wishing I was there with you in your sacred garden, sipping from that cup of wisdom that we have come to share. Oh, Elizabeth. Restless sun is rising on a melancholy morning, and the dawn of indecision, well, it's found me calling for you, Elizabeth. Well, is it just coffee talking as I struggle through the fall of yet another brutal morning? I am wishing I was there with you in your sacred garden, sipping from that cup of wisdom that we have come to share, sipping from this cup of wisdom that we have come to share. Elizabeth Williamson, Gatorbone Recording Studios. That picture was taken in Havana. I was about to say Havana, Florida. The picture was taken in Havana, Cuba 2 years ago. She went down there on a musical mission of some sort. Man, I wish I had been there. Elizabeth Williamson. Okay, I'm going to play another song about another woman. This is a new song. I hope I don't mess it up too bad. It took some time for the stars in the sky to convene and reveal what was really going on. I'd been confusing all the clouds with the great Milky Way, but now I see that today I'm not alone. It's not a myth, it's not a fable. We laid our hearts out on the table. So it's amazing to me what we've become. This really is a love story. It's like our hearts have been welded into one. We had to walk through the fires that burned in other people's eyes, while we dropped our disguise and carried on. Nobody laid their money down on the chance this would survive, but we tried, and now just look what we have done.
There was no ruse, there was no gambit. We just took a shot and grabbed it. And now they can't take it away or deny. This really is a love story. It's like I was waiting for you for my whole life. It's such a wonder, it's such a gift that we have carefully unwrapped. So let's celebrate each day for what it is. This really is a love story, and I will love you until the very end. Yes, I will love you, Ruthie, until the end. All right, Ruthie. So now it's time for viewer mail, and I believe time for viewer mail here. But I hate to say this, but we have no viewer mail. I don't know what happened, Pete. I got no mail here at my address. Did any mail come in here at the studio?
Not here.
Not here. Does anybody know what has happened to the mail? I guess we're just going to have to go and move through this segment because we'll just move through it. If you can kind of catch up to where I am, I'll just move on down the page here. This is a little thing. As I began exploring and working through the women's movement and just seeing all the visuals from long ago and seeing them kind of juxtaposed to the visuals from today, I decided I would write a little song called Bookends. And it's just a tiny little thing here. That's a little ditty called Bookends. Hey, let's check back in with Donna for just a minute if we can, Pete. Hey, Donna, you there?
Donna is on the line.
Hey, listen, I had really basically just one more question. I forgot to ask you. We had decided we were going to talk about the birds, and I was wanting to know what's going on at the birds at your window. Have you had any?
Yes, I've had 3 people in the comments on the side page ask me about
everybody. I'm remiss. So, have you had any new species show up?
I did have a new species in the backyard, which was, I believe it's an eastern towhee.
Eastern what?
Towhee or a Baltimore Oriole. I couldn't get close enough to see. But I had sort of an epiphany watching the birds I wanted to share.
Okay.
You know, I have 11 different species that come.
Okay, now how long ago did you put the bird feeder up at your window? How many? What are we talking about here? When did that go up? Around in May?
It went in May.
That went up in June.
Okay.
In early June.
Okay, so
yes.
you've had 11 species. Sorry to interrupt your conversation here, but you've had 11
that I see.
Okay.
That I see.
Okay.
And take note.
Okay.
And guys, it's on my second floor window. It's great. It's a high up, and I think that's why I get so many birds. I get crows every day.
Crows.
Which is unusual.
Wow.
Big giant crows land. It's like a tray bird feeder nailed.
Uh-huh.
Certain singer-songwriter that I know nailed it to my window.
Ah.
And I sit 3 feet away from them and watch them. It's awesome.
So,
but the blue jays are dominant.
They're dominant over the crows?
Oh, yeah, they dominate the feeder. They're there most of the time, and they're like the bosses of the feeder.
Right.
But the thing I've noticed is all they do is just fly at other birds and make a sound. And I realized that animals, we're the only species that go to war over stuff. I mean, you don't see the blue jays gathering a flock to drive out the woodpeckers, you know.
Right.
Somehow, even though they challenge each other a little bit, they still find a way to live, and they don't know what war is.
They work it out.
That was an epiphany to me.
They work it out. Well, listen, if you would, what I'd like to do next month is I think we should really show some photographs. So you need to. I hate to charge you with this, but you take some photographs. That would be really good, and we'd like to have those next time. All right.
Yeah, I got some good ones.
Okay, good. So we shall do that, and it's been good catching up on the birds. And now comes the time, we're moving right on into, as we're closing up here. This wasn't an extended version, and so we have run long tonight. And I tried to warn everybody, and I know we're moving into the Democratic Convention, so I'm talking as fast as I can. We're going to get this thing finished with. But we have to have our tweets with God as we're ending up here. And this is a big deal. I just want to say something very odd has happened here. Our last show was on July 18th. And on July 19th, God posted this. This is the day after. Kind of a normal tweet from God. He said, quote, "Why do bad things happen to good people? I'll tell you. It's simple. To even out the good things that happen to bad people." Very good, insightful thing from God. And as y'all know, Gurf Morlick's turned me on to God in Winslow, Arizona a few years ago, and it's been a major change in my life. So the next day, this is the 20th, God said, The next day, he said, this is on the 22nd, he said, "Now that Trump has pretty well established that libel laws don't apply to Twitter, I feel more comfortable discussing the many times I saw Geraldo Rivera having sex with underage girls on Jeffrey Epstein's sex island." God's just up to him himself. He's just doing the thing he does. And then I got no tweets from God from over a week. There was nothing. He went silent, and people were writing God and asking him, sending him on Twitter, saying, "What's going on?" And then he wrote this, and he said, "Thanks for the concern, everybody, but I'm just taking time off to write my newest testament while on a working vacation in Bethlehem. I will return even angrier, wittier, and more ineffective than ever in September. Just wait, just in time for back to school. In my absence, I want to let you know no one is in charge." So that was the last tweet we've had from God, and that was on August 1st, and we don't expect any more to hear from him until September. So it was a little scary to have that happen. I'm going to read you something that came out of the New York Times, and I read this. It was in the New York Times on June 27th. And it was by a woman who I did not know her name. And as I was reading her story, I said, this is prose, but it sounds poetic. Come to find out, she is a poet. And her name is Caroline Randall Williams. And she happens to be a descendant of Edmund Pettus, as in the Edmund Pettus Bridge there in Selma, Alabama, that Martin Luther King and John Lewis marched across and got their heads bashed in for doing so. And Edmund Pettus, of course, is a founder of the KKK. And this was written by Caroline Randall Williams. It is a bit of an abbreviated version of what she wrote. I have rape-colored skin. My light brown blackness is a living testament to the rules, the practices, the causes of the Old South. If there are those who want to remember the legacy of the Confederacy, if they want monuments, well, then my body is a monument. My skin is a monument. I am a black Southern woman, and of my immediate white male ancestors, all of them were rapists. My very existence is a relic of slavery and Jim Crow. I am the daughter of 2 black people, the granddaughter of 4 black people, the great-granddaughter of 8 black people. Go back one more generation and it gets less straightforward and more sinister. I am the descendant of black women who were domestic servants and white men who raped their help. White Southern men, my ancestors, took what they wanted from women they did not love, over whom they had extraordinary power, and then failed to claim them as children. I ask then, what is a monument but a standing memory? An artifact to make tangible the truth of the past. My body and blood are a tangible truth of the South and its past. The black people I come from were owned by white people I come from. The white people I come from fought and died for their lost cause. And so I ask you now, who dares to tell me I should celebrate them? Who dares to ask me to accept their mounted pedestals, their monuments? Check her out. Her poetry is extraordinary. Well, we're winding up. I got one more song I'd like to sing. It is a song that was written by my friend Sarah Mack. And it's on my record, A Bad Wife. Sarah Mack has written hundreds of songs. I've performed with her a lot, and I know her body of work. And when I started raking up songs for this album, I landed on this one, which surprised her. But I'm just going to sing it for you. It's called I'm a Really Good Actress. I had a woman tell me she didn't like to listen to other women singing, 'cause their voices were so high and lonely. But she liked me. She said I broke the mold. She said she didn't hear all the traces of sadness that wrecked all my years. And I thought, well, maybe it's because I'm a really good actress. Left over from my 6th grade school play. Yes, I'm a really good actress. Yes, I can write a sad song. I have lived a sad song. All of my dreams have been wasted and they're long gone. But you'd never really know, 'cause I pitch 'em so low. Because I'm a really good actress, left over from my 6th grade school play. Yes, I'm a really good actress. Woman, can't you see now? Woman, won't you see I'm a really good actress. And that is Athena, naked Athena on the streets of Portland, Oregon, in front of a line of men with guns in uniforms that have no names on them and no insignias on them, and who are shooting flash bombs and tear gas at her. She's a really good actress. So that's our show. Thank you, Eliza Gilkyson. Thank you to all you people who support this. You know who you are, and I'm so grateful. And it's such an honor to be able to come in and spend time with you once a month going over stuff. And thank you, Donna. Thank you, Pete. Thank you, Robert. Special thanks to Rita Jane, who helps us with our PayPal account and our Venmo account. And all of you who are out there, we shall see you again in September for another episode of Clay Tablets.